Welcome to Ancient Wild TV. Our journey today takes us back in time to encounter one of the most formidable titans of the Jurassic period. Prepare yourself to investigate the extraordinary world of these colossal dinosaurs and uncover the awe-inspiring discoveries they have left behind. Imagine a creature so colossal that it towers above the ancient forests, its neck stretching skyward like a living skyscraper. This is Giraffatitan, a giant among giants whose very name stirs awe and wonder. With a length that could rival the span of a modern airplane and a weight that makes even the largest land animals of today seem small. Giraffatitan was a true titan of the Jurassic era. Picture this. You're standing in a dense, prehistoric jungle, the air thick with the scent of ancient flora. Suddenly, the ground trembles beneath your feet as something enormous moves through the trees. Emerging from the shadows is Giraffatitan, its immense form dwarfing everything around it. Its neck, as long as a city block, sways gracefully above the treetops, plucking leaves from the highest branches with ease. This isn't just any dinosaur. This is a living marvel of evolution. But how did this gentle giant manage to survive in a world filled with predators? With front legs longer than its hind legs, Giraffatitan could lift its head high, keeping a constant lookout for danger while feeding. Its sheer size was its greatest defense, making it nearly invincible to all but the most fearsome of foes. Imagine being one of the few creatures brave or foolish enough to challenge this giant. The thought alone sends a shiver down your spine. Yet, there's something even more astonishing. Despite its massive frame, Giraffatitan wasn't a sluggish behemoth. Its powerful legs could carry it through the jungle with surprising speed, an imposing figure moving with an elegance that belied its size. How could something so big be so graceful, so perfectly adapted to its world? The mystery only deepens. Every day, Giraffatitan needed to consume vast amounts of vegetation, hundreds of pounds of leaves, to fuel its gigantic body. But how did it find enough food in a world that it shared with other enormous herbivores? And what would happen if the food ran out? These questions hang in the air, adding an edge of suspense to the story of this mighty dinosaur. As you walk away from the shadow of Giraffatitan, the wonder and questions linger. What was it like to live alongside such a creature? What secrets did it leave behind, buried in the ancient earth? Giraffatitan may have vanished millions of years ago, but the mystery and thrill of its existence continue to captivate us, leaving us with a sense of awe that's hard to shake. Sauroposeidon. Imagine unearthing a bone so massive that it weighs 3 metric tons, too large to be anything but a fossilized tree trunk, or so they thought. But as the dust settled on a farm in Oklahoma in 1994, paleontologists soon realized they had stumbled upon something extraordinary. The bone was one of 4 vertebrae from a creature so immense that it took a tractor to move it. The question hung in the air: what kind of animal could possess such colossal bones? The answer: Sauroposeidon, a giant that roamed the Earth during the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods, whose very name stirs the imagination. The name Sauroposeidon is derived from the Greek sauros, meaning lizard, and Poseidon, the god of the sea and earthquakes in ancient mythology. A fitting name for a dinosaur so large that its weight was said to shake the ground beneath its feet. But these bones, kept hidden until 1999, held more secrets. When paleontologist Matt Weddle finally analyzed them, the world learned of a dinosaur that towered over all others, with a neck that could reach up to 59 feet, as tall as a 6-story building. Yet, despite its towering height, there was no evidence to suggest that Sauroposeidon held its neck straight up. Doing so would have placed a tremendous strain on its heart. Instead, it likely carried its head parallel to the ground, an imposing figure moving slowly through ancient forests. Sauroposeidon stretched between 89 to 112 feet in length, with shoulders 20 to 23 feet high. Weighing up to 60 metric tons, it was a titan among dinosaurs. Scientists believe Sauroposeidon had air sacs similar to those in modern birds, a system that helped regulate its body temperature, fill its massive lungs, and even lighten its body for easier movement. These air-filled cavities might have made Sauroposeidon up to 20% lighter than assumed. Still, it was an absolute behemoth. In 2012, more bones from this genus were unearthed in Texas, revealing even more about this ancient giant. Some of these remains were initially discovered in the mid-1980s, but were mistaken for other dinosaurs and left buried until the 1990s. Slowly, as more bones emerged, the picture of Sauroposeidon became clearer. A massive herbivore that thrived in tropical and subtropical forests, near river deltas and coastal swamps. While adult Sauroposeidons had little to fear from predators, the young were likely targets for packs of carnivorous dinosaurs. Scientists have puzzled over how it moved, what it ate, and how it lived. With its long neck, it could easily reach the leaves of tall trees, but some theories suggest it might have also fed on lower vegetation. Its daily diet? A staggering ton of plant material, making it a veritable leaf processing factory. Some wild theories, now largely debunked, once suggested that young Sauroposeidons grew big by eating small animals. Today, we know this is far from the truth. Sauroposeidon was a strict herbivore, descended from ancestors that might have been omnivorous. Sauroposeidon remains a giant shrouded in mystery. A creature that lived in a world we can only imagine. Its story, pieced together from fossils and fragments, still leaves much to the imagination. What was it like to see such a giant moving through the ancient landscape? The answers remain buried in time, waiting to be unearthed. Dreadnoughtus. Now, let's briefly go back to modern times. Imagine 2 London buses standing one behind the other. That's how long our next character was, and here it is. The Dreadnoughtus, a genus of titanosaur and sauropod containing a single species. Dreadnoughtus shrani. Shrani is in honor of American entrepreneur Adam Schran for his financial support of the study. The name Dreadnoughtus means fearing nothing or fearless. It was chosen by Drexel University paleontologist Kenneth Lacovara, who discovered the species. The animal's virtual invulnerability due to its size reminded scientists of early 20th century large steel battleships. The dinosaur is known from two partial skeletons discovered in the Patagonian cliffs of Argentina in the Upper Cretaceous rocks, which are about 70 to 76 million years old. These are the most complete skeletons compared to other giant titanosaurs. Scientists have about 70% of the bones needed to fully describe the creature. From these remains, it is reliably known that the Dreadnoughtus was one of the largest terrestrial vertebrates. Based on the skeletons, the total length of its body was about 26 m, 85 feet, and it weighed 48 to 49 metric tons. If you look at the body parts, the tail reached 9 m, 30 feet, and the elongated neck 11 m, 36 feet. That is, the neck was almost half the length of the animal. Wait, but then Sauroposeidon is larger, you might say. But here's an important clarification. The specimen had the features of a juvenile individual, meaning the Dreadnoughtus was supposed to grow even larger, and no one knows how big it could become. Hang on, but how did scientists know that the Dreadnoughtus remains they found were teenagers? All young vertebrates have so-called growth zones in their bones, cartilaginous epiphyseal plates. In adults, they are overgrown with normal bone tissue. However, this doesn't apply to reptiles because they grow throughout life, albeit it's much more pronounced in their youth. Also, the bone cells, or osteons, have a rather round shape in young dinosaurs, while they are more elongated in the mature ones. So, the paleontologists found unfused bones in the shoulders of the Dreadnoughtus they discovered, and they also had many round osteons. This suggested that the dinosaurs were actively growing at the time of death. Due to the large size of the bones and the remoteness of the discovery site, it took 4 years to completely excavate them. In 2009, the fossils were transported to Philadelphia on an ocean freighter for study. They were studied at Drexel University and the Carnegie Museum of Natural History, and in 2015, the remains were returned to Argentina, where they are permanently stored in the Padre Molina Museum in Rio Gallegos. The bones of both Dreadnoughtus specimens were scanned using a 3D laser scanner. This helped field paleontologist Lacovara study the fossils in the safest way possible without damaging their structure. The animal's weight was determined based on the circumference of the humerus and femur. Using this formula, it would have weighed 59.3 metric tons. That means the Dreadnoughtus would have been more than 8.5 times heavier than a male African elephant, and several tons heavier than a Boeing 737-900 airliner. However, this weight estimate was criticized for being exaggerated. Matt Weddle, already known to us from the study of Sauroposeidon, calculated the weight of this dinosaur to be between 36 and 40 metric tons. Another researcher, Gregory Paul, using methods based on more accurate skeletal restoration, suggested that the dinosaur weighed only 26 metric tons. But all these estimates were ultimately considered inaccurate. A few years ago, in 2020, two studies estimated the Dreadnoughtus's mass at 48 to 49 metric tons. As you can see, the question of the Dreadnoughtus's size is highly debatable. When we look at one species and it appears to weigh 20 times more than another species, maybe what we're really looking at is an individual that is simply 30 years older than the other animal, said Dr. Lacovara. In terms of proportions, Dreadnoughtus's forelimbs were longer than those of any other previously known titanosaur, although they were still not much longer than the hind limbs, and the neck was presumably held horizontally. Scientists believe that their diet was no different from that of other sauropods. They consumed a large amount of plants using their long necks to reach food. Why did they die? Most theories suggest that they were quickly and deeply buried, hence the good preservation of the skeletons. Apparently, there was a catastrophic flood. The waters broke through a natural dam, turning the ground into a muddy mess. And the two dinosaurs were buried in an eroded crevice. What else made the discovery of the Dreadnoughtus particularly special? Well, it helped to calculate the bone strength of dinosaurs and the maximum mass they could withstand. From there, it's a short step to modeling this sauropod's breathing, blood pressure, and dietary needs. Puertasaurus. What can you possibly learn from just 4 vertebrae? Surprisingly, it turns out that's all it takes to reconstruct an entire dinosaur if those vertebrae are from the neck, back, and tail and are well preserved. Though these bones make up just 3% of the skeleton, they have revealed an incredible amount about another colossal sauropod, Puertasaurus, a member of the Titanosaur group. This dinosaur was named Puertasaurus rowelli in honor of the two researchers, Pablo Puerta and Santiago Rowell, who discovered and studied these remains. These scant remains, found in Argentina's Santa Cruz province in southern Patagonia in 2001, were determined to date back to the late Cretaceous period, about 70 to 76 million years ago. Like all sauropods, Puertasaurus was a herbivore. Petrified tree trunks were found not far from the vertebrae, suggesting that this dinosaur lived in forested areas. Even though today's scientists have remarkable capabilities, they are not limitless. It's impossible to determine the exact size of a creature from just 4 vertebrae. However, it is estimated that Puertasaurus was about 98 feet, 30 meters long, and weighed 50 metric tons. Other assumptions have been made as well, with some suggesting that it could have reached up to 131 feet, 40 meters in length, and weighed between 80 to 100 metric tons. The overall size can be extrapolated from the largest discovered vertebra, the dorsal vertebra, which remains intact. It stands at 3.6 feet, 1.1 meters, high and 5.6 feet, 1.7 meters wide, making it the widest sauropod vertebra known. Interestingly, Puertasaurus was the first giant titanosaur to be found with a cervical vertebra, and it was particularly large. The transverse width is 55 inches, 140 centimeters, and it's believed to be the 9th vertebra. In 2013, scientists Mike Taylor and Matt Weddle estimated Puertasaurus's neck to be about 30 feet, 9 meters long. They believe it was thick, flexible, and likely supported by wide cervical ribs and robust short nerve processes. Finally, the two caudal vertebrae from the middle of the tail, with their concave anterior and convex posterior parts, are standard among titanosaurs. Though little else is known, as they haven't been described in detail. So, our hero was built solidly, with a massive torso and lungs seemingly capable of pumping large volumes of oxygen. To carry a body weighing tens, if not hundreds of tons, Puertasaurus must have had incredibly muscular legs. The size and shape of the vertebrae suggest it had the widest rib cage among all titanosaurs, measuring about 16.4 to 26.2 feet, 5.8 meters wide. To put this in perspective, modern American school corridors are typically about 16 feet, 4.9 meters wide, and a classroom might measure 30 by 30 feet, 9 by 9 meters. Imagine this giant, with a chest as wide as an entire classroom, moving through the forest at a steady pace of 7.6 miles per hour, 12.2 km/h, about 1.5 times faster than a human can walk, but only half the top speed of a modern Komodo dragon. Puertasaurus was likely one of the slowest dinosaurs. According to scientists, Puertasaurus was a relatively peaceful herbivore. It ate all kinds of vegetation. Thanks to its flexible neck, this dinosaur could reach high branches behind its head without needing to turn its entire body. It may have also stood on its hind legs to reach the very tops of trees that were out of reach for other animals. Therefore, Puertasaurus didn't need to run fast. Its best defenses against predators were its sheer size and strength. In extreme cases, it could use its long neck, tail, and powerful legs to shake the ground. Furthermore, Puertasaurus likely moved in herds, providing even greater protection. Fighting them would have been like fighting an entire mountain range. These herds probably stayed in one area for extended periods, devouring everything within reach. At that time, the climate was rainy and humid, so Puertasaurus likely lived in dense forests. This provided them with an almost endless food supply, enough for both them and the Dreadnoughtus giants that lived alongside them. However, Puertasaurus eggs, as well as their young, old, sick, or injured individuals, were at risk. Theropods like Orcoraptor, reaching up to 30 feet, 9 meters in length, and weighing up to 1.5 tons, posed a particular threat, with teeth perfectly designed for tearing flesh. Puertasaurus evolved during the late Cretaceous, and along with similar titanosaurs, marked the pinnacle of this line of evolution. It went extinct 55 million years ago during the late Cretaceous mass extinction event that ended the dinosaur era. Patagotitan. Now, let's turn our attention to our next hero, a true titan discovered entirely by accident, once again in Argentina, Patagotitan. A shepherd on a ranch in southern Argentina stumbled upon enormous bones while herding sheep. The ranch owner, Oscar Mayo, contacted paleontologists, and soon scientists began to excavate. During excavations in 2012, 2013, and 2015, they unearthed hundreds of bones belonging to at least 6 long-necked, long-tailed dinosaurs. To be precise, 200 fossils were uncovered, including 130 sauropod bones and 57 teeth from theropod carnivorous dinosaurs. Among these discoveries were bones belonging to a species previously unknown to science. This time, the world was introduced to Patagotitan, or more precisely, Patagotitan majorum, meaning the Patagonian titan of the Mayo family. The dinosaur earned this name because its bones were excavated at the La Feta Ranch owned by the family. And titan reflects the dinosaur's incredible strength and enormous size. Patagotitan began to capture attention in 2014, even before its bones were fully unearthed. The parts discovered, its neck, back, tail, and limbs, were enough to reveal that the world had never seen a dinosaur like this before. British broadcaster and naturalist David Attenborough mentioned it in his documentary. In 2016, the American Museum of Natural History dedicated an entire exhibition to it. According to Smithsonian Magazine, this giant stretched over 37 meters, 127 feet in length, and weighed more than 70 tons, meaning it was longer than a blue whale and heavier than a dozen African elephants. Its femur alone measured 2.4 meters, 7.9 feet long. Later studies suggested Patagotitan was up to 31 meters, 102 feet long, and weighed between 50 to 57 tons. This dinosaur was most likely an herbivore, living in a forest dominated by coniferous species. For a while, no official descriptions of the dinosaur's bones were released, leaving room for speculation. Was it truly the largest land animal ever, as the media claimed? In 2017, paleontologist Jose Carballido from the Egidio Ferruglio Paleontological Museum and his colleagues finally published detailed information about this giant. However, Matt Waddell, a scientist involved in several major dinosaur projects and closely following the Patagotitan since 2014, was less impressed. He estimated that this dinosaur could not be considered the largest. Moreover, he believed that the primary study did not include some crucial bone measurements. Nonetheless, Patagotitan joined the ranks of the giant dinosaurs. Its reconstructed skeleton was displayed at the American Museum of Natural History in New York. But this is not the only place where you can witness this giant. Skeletons recreated based on Patagotitan's discovered bones are exhibited in many museums. The oldest remains date back 101 million years. These creatures likely perished in 3 separate floods. But this is just one theory. There is another. The fact is, the dinosaur remains were found in one location, but in different paleontological layers. This led researchers to speculate that there was a lake where animals came to drink. Perhaps it dried up during a drought, and the dinosaurs died of thirst at different times. Argentinosaurus. And now we approach the final destination of our journey, the habitat of Argentinosaurus. These giants might also be the longest animals of all time, though we still lack irrefutable evidence to support such claims. How was it discovered? As always, it happened by chance. In 1987, a farmer near the town of Plaza Huincul in Argentina found what he believed to be a dinosaur fibula on his land. The man decided he had discovered a piece of petrified wood and reported it to the local museum. Museum staff unearthed it and displayed the fibula in one of their halls. 2 years later, Argentine paleontologist José Bonaparte organized more extensive excavations at the site, leading to the discovery of additional bones from the same dinosaur. Eventually, scientists unearthed 7 dorsal vertebrae, the lower part of the sacrum, some sacral ribs, and part of a dorsal rib. These finds were exhibited in the same museum. Bonaparte presented them at a scientific conference in San Juan in 1989. The detailed description, authored by Bonaparte and Argentine paleontologist Rodolfo Coria, was published 4 years later in 1993. It was then that this herbivorous dinosaur was named Argentinosaurus huinculensis. The first part means Argentinian lizard, and the second refers to the town of Plaza Huincul, near the discovery site. Though known only from fragmentary remains, many scientists consider Argentinosaurus to be the largest dinosaur and possibly the longest animal ever. It was estimated to be 30 to 35 meters, 98 to 115 feet long, and weigh 65 to 80 tons according to some estimates, and 80 to 100 tons according to others. However, data from 2013 suggests it might have been 39.7 meters, 130 feet, long and 7.3 meters, 24 feet tall at the shoulders. Yet again, due to the incompleteness of the remains, its exact size is difficult to estimate. Like other titanosaurs, Argentinosaurus likely had 10 dorsal vertebrae, and they were enormous. One of the dorsal vertebrae was estimated to be 159 centimeters, 63 in high, and 129 centimeters, 51 in wide. Argentinosaurus reached its maximum size in about 15 to 40 years. Its distinguishing features, like other sauropods, included a small head, a long, narrow tail, and an extremely long neck. However, it is unclear how Argentinosaurus held its neck. It may have resembled how a giraffe moves its neck, allowing it to eat from tall trees, bend down to drink water, and maneuver to eat leaves between large branches. These giants also had thick, trunk-like legs with rounded feet that helped distribute their massive weight. Scientists devised an ingenious way to calculate the size of Argentinosaurus. They compared the available fragments with those of smaller, related sauropods known from more complete remains. By taking into account the proportions between different parts of the skeleton, they extrapolated the size of Argentinosaurus from the available fragments. This method provided a general idea of the dinosaur's size, but cannot be considered an exact reconstruction. The weight was determined based on the known ratio between specific bones and body weight. Paleontologists were able to estimate not only the overall size of Argentinosaurus, but also the parameters of its individual body parts. For instance, according to their 1994 estimates, the hind limbs were about 4.5 meters, 15 feet long. The body length from hip to shoulder was 7 meters, 23 feet, and the total body length was about 30 meters, 98 feet. One hypothesis suggests that Argentinosaurus had a shorter tail and a narrower chest than Puertasaurus, but this would make it smaller overall. However, subsequent research disproved this. Another theory argues that some diplodocids, such as Supersaurus and Diplodocus, might have been longer than Argentinosaurus, though significantly less massive. And we know the advantage of size. Few predators would dare challenge such a giant. Yet, even Argentinosaurus was hunted by none other than Mapusaurus. One of the largest known theropods, weighing up to 5 tons. How could they bring down such a giant? They are known from at least 7 individuals found together, suggesting Mapusaurus hunted in packs. In this case, the only advantage Argentinosaurus had was its sheer size because it couldn't outrun them. Like our previous characters, it was incredibly slow. A computer model of the skeleton and muscles showed that Argentinosaurus had a top speed of 7 kilometers per h, 5 miles per hour. Before computer modeling, a dinosaur's speed could only be estimated by studying its tracks and anatomy. Scientists determined their muscle properties by comparing them to those of living animals. As a result, the digital Argentinosaurus learned to walk. It is likely that the animal had a gait in which the front and hind legs on one side of the body moved simultaneously. As we mentioned, Argentinosaurus was a herbivore, feeding on leaves from trees and shrubs. To sustain its massive size, it had to consume between 553 and 576 kilograms, 1,220 to 1,269 pounds of vegetation daily. We're sure you'll agree, that's quite a whopper. In a short time, a few Argentinosaurus could devour an entire forest of trees. This caused significant damage to the local flora, but of course, it pales in comparison to the devastation wrought by the catastrophe that wiped out not only the flora, but also the Argentinosaurus and all other dinosaurs. It's known that they died out as a result of the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event at the end of the Cretaceous period, about 66 million years ago. Scientists are still debating the cause, but the leading theory involves a giant asteroid crashing near Mexico. This led to a dramatic rise in temperature, killing many animals. It also triggered massive destruction: shockwaves, forest fires, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, deadly acid rain, and earthquakes. And then came a years-long winter that cooled the planet. Ironically, those that had dominated the Earth and evolved here for about 174 million years could not survive. Some say that dinosaurs began to die out about 70 million years ago, but they might have been able to rebound if not for the asteroid.